it's usual. All these things come in as soon as we announce. Ask the umpire. Well, the email goes mad. Everything else because it's just something that the listeners love so much, and we do too. To be honest, because we're all a bit. We all like to.
We're never too old to learn something new, are we?
and one thing that never changes, John, is that the players are notoriously hopeless at knowing the laws of the game.
Well, they don't. I mean, you don't expect... I was the same when I was a player, because when I decided that I wanted to become an umpire, I thought, well, I don't know the laws. I played the game, but I don't know the laws. So I actually went and did a course on the laws of cricket. But you can't expect players to be doing the same as well.
Why not, though?
Well, why?
If we play the game, we should know the laws.
There's a lot of time spent. I don't think that there are too many sports around the world where the players know the laws. I think players concentrate on playing.
Just doing it.
It's quite interesting to listen to Jack Leach, who said when we had that dismissal last night, he said, I wasn't sure whether it was out or not, really.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Ball is still live. The non-strike is part of play. Absolutely.
So
ball could have come off the umpire and be caught as well.
It could have come off the umpire.
Absolutely.
And caught off the umpire.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we were wondering that.
He's part of play.
And so therefore, with the other one that came up as a consequence of that is hard straight drive. Bowler gets his fingers on the ball.
Yeah.
The ball then goes to past the stumps.
Yeah.
Hits the umpire's boot.
Yeah.
And ricochets back onto the stumps. The batsman is out.
Absolutely.
Non-striker out of his ground. Out.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I ask about yesterday's dismissal, John?
Yes.
Say if the player in the Mitchell position, so the ball driven back, he thinks it's going to be caught and bowled, he sticks his bat out to stop the bowler taking a catch. It then deflects to the fielder and is caught. Who's out there? Is it the striker who's hit it?
The striker's out.
But so the batsman who's performed the obstruction...
Yeah.
He gets away with it, does he? You can't have the two out in the one.
Well, I mean, the umpires could actually submit a report.
Right.
But the striker is still out caught.
Right, so the obstruction doesn't take precedence.
No,
right.
He's out caught, because the ball hasn't hit the ground. And the non-striker, he's part of play as well. So the ball is still live.
Well, the other thing that cropped up, slightly less likely, was that yesterday... I think Johnny Bairstow spotted a metal hook that was still in the ground.
So the covers. Yes.
Been left in the ground after the covers had been taken off. What if the ball had hit the top of that metal hook that had been inadvertently left on the square and had bounced upwards and was caught by a fielder?
But how could the umpire tell that the metal strip, that the ball hadn't struck the ground as well? I mean, it all depends on how...
He could go on to the third umpire. What do you think?
As far as I'm concerned, he's out.
Really?
Unless I can prove that the ball actually hit the ground.
Right.
It's
unlikely to happen, that one, but it's just,
might cause an argument.
Oh, you could say that the ground is that's part of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I worked for ICC, Vince van der Bijl, who was the umpire's manager, once asked about the ball hitting the grass. The grass is not really the ground, but the grass is the ground.
Well, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But
landing on the grass, but not on the ground. Well, the grass is the ground.
But they often say in village cricket, you'll come across tufts of grass that might be 4 or 5 inches long. You know, they haven't got a mower and the sheep haven't been let in. So it could brush the top wisps of the grass but not hit the ground.
Well, it's, as far as I'm concerned as an umpire, the grass is the ground.
It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
And just on this game, we had that DRS situation. It's not really a sort of dispute, but it must be quite difficult for the modern umpires who are tuned now to DRS and suddenly it's not working. They tell. I just wonder how they would react to that. You may have reacted differently to the modern umpire, who might suddenly feel a bit kind of naked because he hasn't got the backup of DRS. How do you think that
Well, I mean, all you can do at the time is to give what you've seen. If DRS isn't working, then the on-field umpire can only give what they see.
Yeah. But it might be that the modern umpire who's grown up with DRS actually feels uncomfortable.
Possibly.
When it's not working. Whereas when it first came in, I think a lot of the umpires felt uncomfortable with the fact that there was DRS.
But I think the umpires felt uncomfortable because all of a sudden you've got to make decisions, and then you're being challenged.
Yeah.
And which in previously the umpire's decision was final.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it isn't.
Yeah.
So, but if you're going to do the job now, you have to accept that that's part of it, and you're going to be challenged, and sometimes you're going to be shown to be wrong. That's part of the job.
Adrian King wants an answer on this. Hello, Adrian. The key issue here is when the stumps are broken, the law states that to run out a batsman, the fielder has to pull a stump out of the ground. So the stumps are broken, the bails are off. You've got to pull a stump out and you've got to put the ball on it. Okay, so this scenario, the batsman skies the ball, the bowler, or it could be any other fielder, goes to catch it, but that fielder backs onto the stumps at the bowler's end and knocks them all down. They're all lying flat. The fielder drops the ball and it rolls away a sufficient distance for the batsman to attempt a single.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as if the batsman's going to make it to the bowler's end, but to run him out, what does the fielder do? Because all the stumps are knocked flat. Would he have to first reinsert a stump
That's
so it
right.
can then be pulled out again?
Yes.
It's got to work pretty quickly.
Yes.
There's a lot going on there, doesn't
Absolutely, but that's the law. He has to replace the stump and then pull it out, making sure that the ball is in the hand that is on the stump.
there? Good Lord.
Yeah.
That's a lot to do, isn't it?
That's a lot to do. That's a good. Adrian says, I await JH's definitive ruling, and I think you've had it.
Well, he's got it, yeah.
I think you've got it, Adrian. There you go.
There was a question from the Caribbean long ago from the Caribbean umpires about the wicket being broken, and asking if the fielding side, when all the stumps have been broken, can the fielding side replace the stumps on any part of the outfield?
Oh, right.
No, you can't.
It's got to be
it's the
in
pitch.
the original
It's on
holds.
the pitch, absolutely.
But I suppose in the modern drilled cricketer's mind, as soon as the stumps are flattened by one of your colleagues, the nearest person should just rush up and just
put them
stick
back in
him in the
again.
ground.
Oh,
quickly.
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be the fielder that's going to knock them out. No, anyone can shove them
That's
back
right.
in again.
That's right.
This one's from Chris Guest, who I think it's from the Village Green. This, in a Sunday friendly, an ancient leg spinner chucked up a very, very slow lob that the excitable teenage batsman charged down the track to and missed. The ball hit the batter's front pad, in line with middle stump, but maybe 6 yards from the crease. His question is, can the umpire turn down an LBW appeal on the grounds that he doesn't think the ball would have reached the stumps or had the energy to remove the bails?
Quite possibly, but I mean, also 6 yards from the stumps.
It's a long way.
There's no way you're going to give a batsman an LBW for that. You've no idea where the ball is going to go from there. So far, 20 feet away? No.
Okay. Well, there you go, Chris.
Before I read this one out, John, can I just make it clear that it was, I'm afraid, our old friend Victor who selected these. and it was Victor who decided who would read out which ones. With that in mind, Tom Whitehurst writes, and he says, I'll be grateful to John for clearing this up. It's been especially lovely, he starts, listening to your message here, as my girlfriend Kirsten has taken an interest in the game for the first time and she's learning all about the laws. But one scenario has left me stumped. We were discussing law 35.1, which is out hit wicket. And she asked me the following question. I paraphrase it slightly. But the question is this. Imagine a batsman coming out with a pet parrot on his shoulder. He takes guard and prepares to face his first ball. But as the bowler bowls, the parrot flies off, dislodges the bails. Is the batsman out? Now, my response was he'd be out hit wicket because the parrot would have to constitute being part of the batsman's equipment.
As soon as the parrot leaves the batsman's shoulder, either umpire will call and signal dead ball.
Dead ball, I thought you
because
probably...
that's a distraction.
There is a follow-up question, though. What if the fielding team trained a parrot to fly onto the incoming batsman's shoulder after several attempts to shoo the parrot away? The batsman gives in, takes guard, the parrot knocks the bails off as the ball's being delivered. Naive to the fielding team's deception, the umpire asks the batsman if the parrot belongs to him or her. The parrot interrupts and says, I'm his parrot, despite the batsman's protestations to the contrary. Would the batsman be out-hit wicket? Again, he says, I'll be grateful to John for clearing this up.
Again,
Best wishes,
again,
Tom.
simple answer, dead ball.
Dead ball, yeah. It's the
Nothing
go-to.
happens.
Tom, you can tell Kirsten that the go-to is usually dead ball. There you go.
Absolutely.
I always give you the good ones. This is from Chris Evans from Bristol. I was playing my last club game in 2012 and I took my guard, and as I looked up, the ball was halfway down the pitch and I was bowled with my bat still in the crease. I spoke in some strong terms with the bowler, who replied, well, you could have backed away. You obviously hadn't. The opposition was supposed to be a religious side, but not obviously as far as cricket was concerned, he says. I know who was morally correct, but should the umpire or the captain have intervened? I.e., the batsman is claiming he wasn't ready, but he didn't take any action.
If the bowlers and umpire at least should have called dead ball. In fact, either umpire could have called dead ball if in their opinion, because this is possibly unfair play.
Okay.
If the bowler is trying to catch the batsman up before he's ready.
But there is a duty for the batsman to be ready.
Yeah,
I mean, you will have umpired
Time wasting.
often with... No, well, I was not thinking of that, but Norman Gifford.
Oh, yeah.
Favour the great left-arm spinner from Worcestershire.
Who would turn around after one pace and bowl,
Yeah.
and you're not ready.
And the
So umpire calls that ball immediately. If you're on your umpire, one of the things about umpiring is that once the ball is live, you've got to be live as well. So you've got to be looking for things like that.
But should the batsman not be alive as well?
Yeah, but it all depends. It's
So
a
it's
quick
your
judgment
judgment.
you've got to make
Yeah.
if it's unfair.
Did you ever have a moment when Giff, in particular, was famous for this, where you had to inform Giff that...
I remember umpiring a game at Canterbury between Kent and Worcester when Giff, frustrated that the batsman wasn't ready and hadn't fallen for his rules, actually lay on his... between balls, lay on his back, looking up to the sky with the ball.
We're waiting for him to get ready.
Yeah, just deliberately.
And then he bellowed, are you ready yet? That sounds like the Norman Gifford I know.
He must have got so many young cricketers, first-class cricketers.
And then he would, if it hit the stumps, he would look horrified when the batsman was allowed to stay there.
he was one of the game's characters.
It certainly was. And a great hitter in fielding practice back in those days when they're not as skillful as they are now. But he used to absolutely perfectly judge, I remember, how far you should run to take the steepling catches. Hello, Geffing around. Larry Hughes emails from Leeds, but is sadly not at the match. Welcome back, John, he says. The situation. The bowler bowls it very wide, directly into the leg of the short-leg fieldsman, from where the ball bounces back onto the strip. The batsman steps forward and whacks it to the boundary. Does the four stand? And Larry says this exact incident took place with me, with a plastic bat and 2 4-year-olds in my living room.
If you bowl the ball off the pitch, because this is where the short leg fielder is standing off the pitch. So you bowl the ball off the pitch, dead ball, no ball. It can't be. No, it hasn't. It hasn't
got there.
No, and it hasn't passed the batsman, so it can't be a wide. It hasn't passed the striker.
So if you bowl one at short leg,
immediately call dead ball, followed by no ball.
Yeah. I have seen
no ball. Does that accrue then?
Yeah, no ball is automatically a run.
Okay.
I have seen a delivery from dear old Sid Lawrence, bowling very fast at Gloucester one year. He's going through that sort of swooping run-up approach. Remember?
Yeah.
He actually fired a ball that missed short leg on the other side.
Honestly,
yes.
No, that's a massive wide. That should be 2 wides.
I was at the non-striker's end. I think George Ferris is on strike. George blinked a couple of times.
In my last year umpiring in 2009, I umpired a game at Hove between Sussex and Durham, and the one-day game, and the West Indian player Dwayne Smith was batting on strike and batting well. The first ball he hit, I was the bowler's end umpire at the C end, and the first ball he swept past square leg, and it disappeared into the distance in the dark. Anyhow, he gets to about 40 odd, and I'm standing at square leg now. When he gets a wide, pitching on the pitch next door.
Yeah.
Off from one of the spinners, and greedily he went to whack it out of the ground and got caught at short third man.
No, really?
Off the edge. Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Just while you're on that, because it often happens, and I haven't got one here, but when can a batsman go and hit a ball that's sort of dribbled out of the bowler's hand?
You
or
can't.
You can't at all?
No, that's stopped.
It's
You call dead ball. Immediately the umpire calls dead ball. And then
Because you used to, back when we were playing, you used to be able to walk up and just whack it to
People
the
would
ground.
go to extra cover if necessary. Yeah.
There was a similar thing in a county match at Trent Bridge, Notts versus Northants, and Big Kirtley bowling from the Radcliffe Road end.
Oh, yes.
And I'm standing at square leg, and Arkle goes into bat, Randall goes into bat, and he's desperate to get off the mark as he always was. And in Ambrose's delivery swing, his bowling hand with the ball hit the bat, hit his leg. And the ball lobbed about 15 feet in the air and dropped just off the pitch at short leg. And Randall, in those days, the striker was allowed to hit it.
Oh, yeah.
And he went and like a golfer, he teed it up and whacked it to the square leg boundary. Now he's got off the mark.
That's not a sensible thing to do.
And he's feeling really good.
Yeah.
He's feeling really good. So he gets back to his mark, and when he looks up, Ambrose is standing there with his face like thunder. And all of a sudden, Randall realised what he'd done, because not long previously, Dermot Reeve and Ambrose bowled a couple of beamers at Dermot Reeve. Upset him. And all of a sudden, Randall thought, I'm going to get a beamer. And he shouted at Merv Pitch, and he said, Merv! Cancel those runs.
Did he? Or was it too late?
No, you couldn't. You can't.
Too late.
Can't.
And how did Ambrose? What was Ambrose's next delivery like?
Oh, he was fine.
Okay.
But the whole ground fell apart.
That's lovely.
Well, it's not quite. But here's just a piece of advice being sought by Simon Armstrong, which becomes more relevant the way people hit the ball so hard now. But he says, I would like to ask how best to position yourself while standing as an umpire at the bowler's end. And he goes on to say, I stand where I can see the top of the stumps aligned with the markings which denote the start of the danger area. I don't quite know what that means exactly. But were there any sort of guidance you'd give as to where you should be standing?
You stand in a position where you can see what you need to see.
Yeah.
So I always stood in line with the middle stump.
Yeah.
So I can look wicket to wicket. So I've got that view. But in terms of safety, I see lots of umpires standing with their hands behind their backs.
Yeah.
That is, for me, under no circumstances.
So you're losing a bit of protection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I stood with my hands fairly loose in front of me.
Just in
because
case.
you got a chance of doing that. I saw Alim Dar in a World Cup in South Africa nearly get decapitated once, because he's always stood with his hands behind his back, and as the ball was drilled back at him throat high, he managed to reach up on tiptoe, and the ball went in the air.
I think I remember that one.
So I thought to myself, and especially now the way how the bats hit the ball.
Yeah.
You've got to look at at safety.
And what about in terms of some bowlers? How flexible could you be? Because some bowlers might say, could you just stand back a bit more, because I think I'm going to just brush you as I come in, and that sort of stuff.
It all depends on... I mean, I've had that problem on counties.
Yeah.
And if you got a fast... And it's mainly the fast bowlers, because the spinners occasionally bowl no balls, but it's the quicker bowlers. You need to be able to see when his foot lands legitimately. So you need to stand close enough for that, but not too close, because if you get too close, you're looking down almost vertical, steeply to the popping crease, and then you got to look up to
a big change of angle of sight.
And by then the ball has gone from the quicker bowlers. So there's an optimum position which experience will teach you, where you can see the foot land, and you can still pick up the flight of the ball at the far end. But always look at your safety, and if you think that getting close to if the spinner, for example, wants you to stand up close to the wicket, and Ian Botham nearly castrated me once at Worcester when he first went to Worcester with a straight drive. Raj Maru wanted me standing up to the wicket, and Both straight drove one just over the top of the stumps in line with my groin. And I just managed to twist. I didn't have time to move. I just twisted. And it went past, and boss said, "I'm going to get you, Holder." So you got to look at yourself.
Self-protection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now,
That's
Mark,
very
in
useful.
sunny Birkinshaw, can I put to the venerable John Holder the following query? Have you been called that before?
No, I've been called a lot of things, but
Exactly. Anyway, Mark says, if I notice a batsman standing out of his crease, can I bowl the ball deliberately to a fielder, like we're back in that short leg scenario again, to run him out?
no,
No.
you can't do that.
Dead ball.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is from Steve Caldwell. If the opposing team has 5 to win off the last ball of a game and had been hitting sixes for fun on a small boundary, can our team set out loads of helmets to tempt the batter to hit the ball along the ground and get 5 runs rather than go for another 6? I'm not confessing to have done this. I'm asking for a friend, he says.
The only place the fielding side can put a helmet is behind the wicket keeper.
And I think Mike Brearley probably created that rule, didn't he? Because he famously put a helmet at very short mid-wicket when Yorkshire were blocking up, when
Right.
Edmonds was bowling.
No, that shouldn't have been allowed.
Well, he claims, I think, that they changed the rule after that,
Okay.
in that he was trying to induce one of the Yorkshire players to play across the line against the turning ball by putting the helmet at very short mid-wicket, so there's 5 runs there if he just tapped it.
That's very
And,
kind.
and this roused some tension, and then they made the rule that the helmet, as you say, has got to go behind the wicketkeeper.
And only the 2 batsmen at the crease can't put a helmet on the ground either.
No, okay.
Because if that happened, and then the fielder threw the ball and then hit the helmet, they're benefiting from.
Yes.
So only a member of the fielding side can do that.
Okay.
Is there a chapter in the art of captaincy devoted to that?
Well, there is a reference to it. Isn't there? No, he does. He does refer to that. Yeah.
Pardon me.
Right, on we go. We've got, 10 minutes, just under, before the players come out again. And we'll have some fun up to then. A player with a luxuriant beard dives to take a catch. It's unclear if it's a clean catch. TV pictures show that while the beard is grounded, the ball lodged in the beard. Is this in or out?
I mean, the beard is part of his person, so it's out.
out.
Absolutely, the ball lands on the beard. It's part of the batsman's person, so he's out.
Best wishes to Keith Flett, who is in hospital at the moment.
Keith Fletcher.
No, Keith Flett.
Oh, Flett,
He's
okay.
our normal beard inquiry.
Okay,
Thank you, Keith.
okay.
Just get well soon, eh?
This is from Robert Jackson. It's the last innings of a match. The batting side need 1 to win, with 1 wicket left. And on strike, the batter has 98. They get a single, and they turn for a second, but he's run out before they make it. Because he wants to get 100. So he asked, does this wicket count? And do they therefore win by no wickets, which doesn't make much sense, or does it not count? And if it doesn't count as a wicket, would the second run have counted if they made that second run?
Just read that again.
No, sorry. It's someone on 98, and he wants to get 100.
Yeah,
clearly.
okay.
But there's just 1 to win and just 1 wicket left. So what they're asking is, as they make the last hit of the match, can they run 2 as opposed to the 1 needed for victory to allow that batsman to get this much desired 100?
The ball is live, obviously. If the fielding batsman can run 2 runs, they can run 2.
And that counts, even though they only need 1 to win the game.
No, sorry. As soon as they've completed the first run, the match is over.
And
as
so
soon
they
as
can't try and persuade everyone that, I ran 2, so I've got 100.
No, not at all.
Okay.
As soon as you completed that first run,
That's right. Okay.
the match is over.
All right, that's clarified that.
Here's an interesting one from Richard Mills in Manchester. The wicket-keeper decides to take up a position at the vacant first slip because he thinks this field placing represents the best chance of taking a catch. He's in full gear, including gloves. Do the umpires have the jurisdiction to intervene before the bowler bowls? If not, presumably any catch taken by the safekeeper in this position is deemed to be legal. In that case, is it within the laws of the game for the wicketkeeper to take up any position in the field,
No.
including in the deep?
No, if the place for a wicketkeeper is behind the wicket.
Right. So he can't
And
even
if
go to
he's
first
not,
slip.
he can't go anywhere else on. If he can, but he's not a wicketkeeper then.
Yeah, and he's got to take his gear off.
Yep.
So he's
He can keep it on, but he is not a wicketkeeper, so he can't stump a batsman.
Right.
He's just a fielder. If
But
he goes, so you don't have to have a wicketkeeper.
okay.
But he can't catch the ball in his gloves, though, can he?
No, he
He's-
can't. He can't. No,
Unless
he
he's
can't.
behind the stumps.
He's got to be behind the stumps where he's treated as a wicketkeeper. Then he can use his gloves.
Oh, right.
But if he goes to another position, any other position in the field, as long as he's not behind the wicket,
He has
and
to
he
take the
catches the
gloves
ball
off.
with his gloves, then it's penalty runs.
Yes,
it's
fine.
illegal.
That happened to me
Yeah.
with a hat. Graham Cowdrey, up bowled Graham Cowdrey, turned it to square leg. Nothing was done. I turned around. Graham does a bit of gardening. Square leg threw the ball to Winston Benjamin, who was fielding at mid-on, who for a laugh just took his big sun hat off, caught the ball in his sun hat.
Penalty runs.
Would you have done me? I was so cross with Don Oslier.
Penalty runs.
Peter Willey got fined for what he said to Don Oslier for
Well,
awarding 5 runs.
I bet Don Oslier enjoyed it though.
Well, of course. But
I've been robbed by 5 runs my entire career, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Penalty runs. That's illegal.
John, you wouldn't have done that to me. The ball was dead. It was all finished.
It wasn't dead.
I was walking back to my mark.
You were walking back to him. Well, look, it is in the umpire's opinion when the ball is dead.
Right.
Obviously,
I was walking back to my mark.
Well, if you're walking back to
I
your
don't
mark,
think they'll adjust it now. I mean, it won't make much difference to your career.
Princeton
after
needs to be
Jaggers.
rewritten.
yeah. But Don,
Don't like the law.
He would have liked that.
Don he liked to be seen.
We've got this is quite topical, and it's from someone called Andy, but I don't know Andy who. And he makes an interesting point about we're starting to see more retired outs, especially in T20 cricket, which we could discuss in a second. But he says, on the subject of retired outs, I scored a Huddersfield, as in he kept the scorebook, I think, a Huddersfield League under-17s fixture last night between Meltham and Marsden cricket clubs where we had 4 retired outs. And he asks, are there any limits on how many retired outs you can have in an innings?
No, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the laws of cricket. Nope.
And I just wonder more generally, I expect you've seen how in the T20 Blast quite recently 2 players retired out. Samit Patel retired out for the last ball of an innings. He was the non-striker, and for some curious reason they decided that they had faster runners in the dressing room, so he retired out and someone came out and replaced him as the non-striker for the last ball because he could run faster.
Yeah.
And Carlos Brathwaite also retired out
Right.
for the last over of a Blast game because they decided that there was someone else, Sam Hain, I think, better
He
suited
was
to
well
hitting
retired.
leg spinners.
Yes,
So have you...
There's nothing.
there.
There's nothing in the laws to stop you.
But
from.
what about the potentially dubious practice of people retiring hurt with
When-
dodgy with and not the umpires have clearly got to be sure that batsman is probably hurt to be allowed to come back again at a later date. I mean, how do you mark that? You just have to use your common sense.
That is something for the lawmakers, because if you think that sharp practices are happening, then it's up to the people who run the game, who make the laws and so on, and plain regulations, to do something. Because the umpires have got no medical training.
Yeah.
They're not in a position to determine whether a player is fit or unfit. If someone says, you retire out, there's nothing in the law to stop a batsman from retiring out. That's the reality. But if it becomes a sharp practice, then they've got to do something with the law.
Because the difference is, if you retire hurt, you can come back in
That's right.
again.
That's right.
Whereas if you're retired out, that's
right.
it.
That's right.
But all right.
James Cooper. I'm looking for clarification on an incident that occurred in my first match as an umpire. In the mid-overs, I was at the bowler's end, with the bowler having commenced his run-up. Suddenly, there was a commotion amongst the small crowd and the scorers. I looked up to see that a gust of wind had caught the mobile electronic scoreboard, and it was wheeling its way from outside the pavilion towards fine leg. The game then stopped organically, But what should I have done in my official capacity if play had continued?
Well, you would call dead ball and stop.
Just stop.
Just call dead ball, stop. So nothing else can happen.
No.
You call dead ball, the bowler running up to ball would stop, because that's a massive distraction. And it's potentially, if there's a field of fielding at your fine leg, someone could get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, what happens if you couldn't actually wheel it away and you're left with it standing? I mean, I don't know how big this mobile device is, but I mean, if it's one that you can't push away easily.
Well, in that case, you and your colleague and the two captains would have to come together and decide if it's possible for the game to resume, but have to change the boundary.
Right.
So as to avoid having this thing on the field of play. That's all you could do.
It's a bit unlucky in your first match to have that coming on, isn't it? Oh dear.
But
Anyway,
getting back to that first one with Victor with the spike left on the ground.
Yeah. Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, the ball has hit the ground.
Spike constitutes the ground.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can't give a batsman a cock for a ball.
No, fair enough. I think you're right. Yes, that makes sense.
It's because we've had animals before, haven't we? And if the ball hits a cow, you can't catch it off the cow.
No.
Oh, right. Okay. But you can catch it off the umpire.
Oh, well, umpires are part of the play. That's the important thing.
Here's one from Ian Gordon. He says, playing in a game last week, so he's assumed this happened, a very high and fast no ball went over the keeper, hit the helmet behind the keeper, and then ricocheted over the boundary without bouncing. So is that 1 for the no ball, 5 for hitting the lid, and 6 for the run, so 12? Is this the most you can get off one ball? No, what is it then?
Well, you get 1 for the no ball and 5 for hitting the helmet.
You don't get the 6 if it
No,
goes over the run?
because once it hits the helmet, the ball is dead.
Okay.
As soon as the ball hits the helmet on the ground, it's dead, and automatically 5 runs.
Well, that's cleared that up. Bad luck, Ian. The 12 is not possible after all.
This is one about sort of switch hitting from Chris Bromley. Please answer. I can't find a definitive answer. Now, we're going back to the Kevin Peterson switch hit times when he hit, Murley, Scott Starr, I think, for 2 sixes, actually, with his reverse switch. This fellow, Chris, is left-handed, and I take up a traditional left-handed stance. My question is there anything in the rules or regulations that prevent me from getting to the crease, marking up a right-handed stance, and then as the bowler starts his run, I switch to left-handed every delivery? Can he do that? If you take guard as a right-handed batsman, we have had this argument. I remember because with those KP shots, I sort of argued that if you were a hopeless number 11 facing someone like Muralitharan, because of where your off stump is and your leg stump is by where you take your stance, if as a right-handed hopeless number 11 I took guard as a left-hander, and then I simply switched quickly to right and just kicked everything away, I'm not going to be given out LBW.
Whichever stance you take your guard as, that remains your stance.
Right.
So if there's a left-hander, you take your stance as a right-hander. When and the ball is bowled, you're a right-hander. So you're still a right-hander.
KP he had his hands like a right-hander, and then at the last minute he jumped, switched his hands around, boof. I mean, goodness knows how he did it. Hit these sixes. But
the judgment for LBW would be based on were you standing as a right-hander?
Yes.
So the fact that he's changed to left-hander doesn't change the leg. The leg side is still the leg side, and the offside is still the offside.
So you can kick it. You could kick it away then.
But in the opinion, the judgment would be made had he been standing as a right-hander. If the ball had pitched outside his leg stump, it couldn't have been LBW. So you're still a right-hander.
I see.
For the judgment of the LBW where the ball pitched, your judge is the right-hander still.
The umpires are in the middle. I mean, those in the white coats, John. It's been great catching up with you.
Good to see you all as well.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Let's hope we can squeeze another visit in. But you're looking fit and well.
Didn't really
trouble your family, your grandkids, of which you've now got goodness knows how many. Lovely to catch up with you again.
Thank you.